So blessings, everyone who's listening, who's unable to understand Thai. I will give some teaching in English now. And I was just saying that I'm personally very happy to be here, as I always am, to come back to the monastery where I began life as a monk. I was born here. Funnily enough, I was actually ordained as a monk here on my birthday, my actual physical birthday. So my birthday as a human being and then as a monk is the same day or same date. So very easy to remember. But coming back here every year is always a joy for me because it helps me to remind me of my teacher, Luang Por Chah, and the place, and then the Sangha of monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen who practice here, and the visitors. And many things I notice haven't really changed. Luang Por Chah passed away 34 years ago, and the monastery's actually been here 74 years or something since 1954, 72 years maybe. But some things haven't changed. People often talk about how in the old days everything was difficult, there's no electricity, no running water, and all that is true, but the way of practice hasn't changed. The respect for the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, the practice of mindfulness in daily life, the importance of sila or keeping the Vinaya in the monastic form hasn't changed. The emphasis on training the mind to abandon unwholesome dhammas, cultivate wholesome dhammas hasn't changed. And so perhaps that's one thing that makes me happy when I come back here. I see that, and I see it's still a good place to practice. When I was a young monk, a journalist came to the monastery and they asked me, what did you learn from Ajahn Chah or from being a monk in Ajahn Chah's Sangha? And I said, well, the first thing I learned was how to bow properly. Obviously there's many ways you can bow, but in Wat Pong you learn how to bow, what we call the 5-point prostration. You bow down, your forehead, your palms of your hands and your elbows on the ground together with a straight back. They said, how often do you bow? I said, about 50 times a day. They said, really? I said, yes, because when you bow, you do it every time you enter the meditation hall, before you leave, every time you see your teacher before you leave. Even if you're going back into your hut in the forest, you bow. Before you leave it, you bow. So if you're going to the toilet, you bow. And then you come back from the toilet, you bow. Before you go to bed, you bow. When you get up in the morning, you bow. This is how Ajahn Chah taught. He said you have to learn how to bow because you're bringing your body down and at the same time you're lowering what we would now call your ego. But in Buddhism we say your ditthi mana. Ditthi is your self-view, mana your conceit. And bowing is a very simple and obvious way to lower that by physically lowering yourself. You can also do it by putting your hands together in Anjali, and that's useful in some situations. But actually physically bowing is very helpful for bringing yourself to the present, your mind to the present moment, and lowering some of this conceit and attachment to self-view that we carry around with us and causes us so much suffering. And I said they emphasize this a lot in Ajahn Chah's monastery when I came here. If you didn't bow, they always say, why aren't you bowing? Or if you didn't bow properly, they said, why aren't you bowing properly? So you learn how to bow. But I found it very helpful. And maybe it's not everybody's cup of tea, but for me I found it a very useful way to bring up very wholesome mind states. It helps you to respect Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, reminds you of the teacher, helps you to respect the teacher. And when we say respect, what respect does, it clears the way for you to receive more teachings and more good things into your heart. Because of course if your self-view and conceit is very high and very strong, it's like that forms a wall so you can't receive the Dhamma. So my guess is this is why Ajahn Chah emphasized learning how to bow as the beginning of your practice. It's not just for monks, it's for lay people as well. Like you'll see there's a sign at the beginning of the monastery. It says when you come into the monastery, this is a place of respect. respect for Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, respect for other practitioners, respect for the trees, the animals. And in the old days, when I first came here, people would show respect. They'd take their shoes off when they arrived at the monastery. Now everyone drives in, so you don't think of taking your shoes off. But in the old days, they walked here often or came on a bike, so they would take their shoes off. And monks would as well. It makes you respect the place. It makes you think every square inch of the monastery is a monastery. It's a place offered to the Buddha. It's sacred, you could say, or holy. That's not something that anyone is enforcing on you. It's something you just think of. Or quite naturally it comes up in your mind and you become very careful, very mindful. ไม่จับเงิน มีทายกช่วยไหมทายกมาช่วยหน่อย That's just an example of the rules that Ajahn Chah gave us. He taught monks not to handle money or receive money. So somebody just gave some money. Perhaps they weren't around when Ajahn Chah was around. I think if Ajahn Chah was here, I'd have probably got a telling off if I'd accepted money. That's another thing about Ajahn Chah. He was very thorough and devoted to the Vinaya, as the Buddha taught. You know, every monastery, every teacher probably has their own variations on the Vinaya and the training. But what I understand from Ajahn Chah is very thorough and sincere in following the rules, all the rules. So things like not handling money, which to this day still causes surprise, as you can see. Even in Thailand, Thai people still want to offer money to monks. It's kind of standard. In fact, actually, some of the only times Thai people have been angry with me is when I refuse to accept their money, which is very strange. เข้าใจไหม อย่าไปโกรธพระถ้าท่านไม่รับเงินนะ ท่านก็พยายามรักษาวินัยนะ อย่าไปโกรธท่าน The Vinaya, Luang Por Chah said, is the foundation, the solid foundation of our practice. And so all these little rules and bigger rules, they're very important for us to learn and then to keep. And it brings us a happiness. This happiness you get from keeping, whether it's the 5 precepts, 8 precepts, or the Vinaya of the monks. It gives you a lot of happiness. It's freedom from remorse. You know, you may not be perfect in your mind. You may still have greed, anger, delusion, confusion. But the rules are things you can learn and remember and practice every day. And once you get into the habit of that, it brings you a steadiness of mind and an inner peace and inner happiness and a lack of regret. So not only do we learn to bow, but we learn to keep the rules. And it's another thing that journalist asked me. They said, how do you practice as a monk? I said, well, we just learn to keep the rules. And the rules are many, hundreds in fact. But you just learn them as you go along. And as Ajahn Chah used to say, you have to learn how to have the right attitude. Your attitude is that you want to keep them. You may forget rules sometimes, and so you have to be reminded by another person, or you remind yourself, or you may even forget and then have to correct yourself later. But the important thing is having the attitude you want to learn, because you want to change your mind for the better. And as I was saying in the talk in Thai, like a lot of us, we want the shortcut to freedom from suffering, the shortcut to Nibbana. So we'd love to do a ceremony or a blessing where they take away all our bad karma for us. And a lot of our bad karma has come from our past actions that were not very skillful. We've said and done things that we feel ashamed of or regret about, and we've hurt other people as well. And when we remember it, we feel really sad and maybe very angry with ourselves as well. But you can't just take all that away just doing a ceremony or, you know, waving a magic wand or something like that. You have to look at what's going on, and when our mind is not very steady and we've broken a lot of rules and hurt other people and sometimes hurt ourselves in the past, we have to learn how to establish mindfulness and reflect on that and say, yeah, I'm not perfect, and I may have done some things that I'm not proud of or I'm ashamed of in the past. But if I can see that now, then now I can make my intention clear that I will no longer act in that way or do that thing or break that rule. And that's how you learn. You're constantly reflecting and reviewing your practice and trying to improve your attitude and then your ability to keep the rules until you can keep them quite normally. And I think most people can. Like when I first came to Wat Nong, we'd meditate in the old hall, not this one, and you'd sit there and there were, you look down and you'd have 30 mosquitoes biting you and you just wanted to kind of wipe them off and squash them all because you're getting so bitten as you're trying to meditate for Nibbana and you're just sitting there being miserable because you've got these mosquitoes biting you. So at first I had to work hard not to squash them. So sometimes I can even remember I lift my hand up. You go, you see the mosquito, you want to get it, you've got the hand raised, but then of course you're a monk, you can't do that. So put the hand down until you no longer lift the hand up, and you may still have the aversion to them. I hate you. But you're no longer going to do anything. And then later maybe you don't even say I hate you, you just go, oh, mosquito. And then your mind becomes more normal. And that's how precepts and sila and vinaya works, isn't it? You train yourself from the coarsest through to the most refined until you can gradually remove these intentions from your mind. And a monastery like this is a perfect place to practice that. You can't just get rid of your past by waving a magic wand, but you can learn to keep precepts and live with a good attitude, with practicing kindness, compassion for the people around you. You can learn how to do that until your intention to hurt others or break precepts has gone. And I think any monk will have learned that. They'll learn how not to squash mosquitoes, not to steal, not to hurt. They've learned that. And so they get a lot of happiness from that. If you keep the 8 precepts regularly till it becomes normal for you, you feel very good. You may even get to the point where you still have, deep down, you still have attachments, you have greed, anger and delusion, but if you have the feeling, if I was to die today, it's okay, because you have no more regrets in your mind, because your mind is established in sila. Doesn't mean to say you've got no defilements, but you just know you won't hurt other people knowingly, deliberately. It's a very good state of mind to achieve, and you can achieve that as a human being through the practice. But it takes effort, it takes practice, and that's what we're here for. And more importantly, if you do practice sila, then you can also develop samadhi very easily. Because what happens when you're practicing samadhi is you'll notice most of what you're thinking about is the sila that you didn't keep. The person you're angry with and you want to scold or argue with or get back at, seek revenge on. The thing you want that may mean you want to steal something or steal somebody's partner or steal something material, some bit of money or something of value. Or you may have those moments where you just want to get intoxicated, you're fed up with life and you just want to get drunk or whatever. Those intentions will still be coming up, and when you meditate you'll notice them, won't you? Where does all this stuff come from that fills your mind when you meditate? Mostly it's moments where you haven't kept the sila in the past, or at least have the intention to break sila, or the intention to break sila in the future. I'm going to do it, I'm going to get them, I'm going to get this, do that. And this comes up and bothers you, doesn't it? You can't meditate for very long peacefully because the mind is not yet established in sila. So the Buddha and Luang Por Chah and all the teachers say you have to put effort into practicing sila and understand the role of it so that you can then get the benefit of starting to experience a mind of samadhi. The mind of samadhi is a mind that is still, steady, happy, content. And this is a very important thing. If we really want to understand the Dhamma, we've got to find some inner happiness from our practice. Why can we all sit here listening to Dhamma talks for many hours a day, meditating? One reason is because we are happy to do it. We're getting some happiness from this. We call this the food of the heart. The happiness of the heart comes both from practicing dana, sharing, giving, helping others. Comes from the practice of sila, being more sensitive, caring of the people around us, the environment. But it also comes from developing steady, peaceful, wholesome states of mind, what we call samadhi. If you put effort into that, then your mind starts to feel content. It doesn't need a lot of other things to be happy. You can do without a lot of the comforts of the world and the distractions of the world. And because your mind now becomes more self-contained, more independent of the world, because of samadhi, you can contemplate and gain some insight. The Buddha always said, when you perfect sila and develop sila, samadhi is the fruit. When you perfect and develop samadhi, panya, insight, is the fruit. Wisdom and insight that really frees our mind from suffering has to come from a mind that is still happy, able to look at the world and look in an unbiased way at the way things are, to see a thought of greed is suffering, let it go. A thought of anger is suffering, let it go. A thought of delusion, confusion is suffering, let it go. You know, if something is suffering, why keep it? Why hold it in your mind? To do that, to really see things as they are, you've got to steady your mind, calm it down, bring it to stillness. Then you'll see, then you'll know. Someone was asking earlier today, why can't I let my anger go? I've been meditating for 10 years and I'm still full of anger. Well, some defilements take a while. We have to be very patient, keep working at it. The important thing is to see, well, are you going in the right direction? If you've been practicing 10 years, you can ask, am I less angry than 10 years ago? You should be able to review and see whether that's true. And if it's true, well, it must mean you're doing something right. But often we're impatient. We don't want anything in our mind. We just want to have a mind that's empty, free from suffering straight away. We're impatient. We want to practice a little bit and have nibbana straight away. Which would be nice. And we love to hear stories about monks who meditate and straight away they hear one talk and they're enlightened. But most people that's not going to happen. Most people it has to be a continuous, regular practice, very patient, developing the right qualities and gradually letting go. But as long as you keep letting go of greed, anger, delusion, you're going in the right direction. Ajahn Chah used to say, don't worry about time. It takes 1 day, 1 year, 1 lifetime, 10 lifetimes, doesn't matter. The important thing is to do the right thing, practice in the right way, to establish the right view, samma ditthi, to understand the difference between wholesome, skillful dhammas and unwholesome, unskillful dhammas, separate in your mind and then abandon the unskillful and cultivate the skillful. I just went to India recently and I always ask myself, what was the Buddha doing under the Bodhi tree? And his own words was, he spent most of his time separating between wholesome and unwholesome dhammas and then abandoning the unwholesome, cultivating the wholesome. That's what a bodhisattva does on the way to becoming a Buddha. That's what a practitioner does on the way to becoming an arahant. This is the skill, the practice that we have to learn, how to abandon the unwholesome. And the more we put effort into developing mindfulness, stilling the mind, calming the mind, the more you'll see the difference between the wholesome and the unwholesome. And then it's just very obvious you should abandon the unwholesome. And when we begin practicing, you get angry and you think, I should be angry because that guy didn't do what I wanted. Or that guy told me off, or that guy gave me some trouble, so I should be angry. Or I didn't get what I want, I should be angry. So you don't even see that it's worth that you should be letting go of anger. You're defending it, finding excuses for your anger. We protect our anger, we protect our greed. Or we're jealous of someone and say, oh, she always gets better than me. We protect and find excuses for our defilements. We don't even recognize them as the cause of suffering yet in the beginning. But you keep practicing, and little by little your mind opens up. We call it awakening. Don't you? You say, oh, this is the suffering. It's nothing to do with her or him. It's me. I'm holding on to the wrong thinking here. Then you start practicing. Maybe your practice goes very quickly then. You realize what you're doing wrong. Oh, I'm holding on where I shouldn't. It's all right to hold on to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, but don't hold on to greed, anger and delusion. Let them go. The quicker you let them go, the quicker you'll be finished with the practice, the quicker you'll go home. You won't have to sit here struggling with the weather and the mosquitoes anymore. If you get enlightened, you can go anywhere. Which is probably what we all want. But to get there, we have to practice. We have to be willing to put up with the difficulties until we really understand the mind. What did Luang Por Chah say? He said, learn to read your own mind. You know, everyone, as soon as this talk's finished, everyone will be picking up their phone, reading the text, what's this, what's that. Forget that. We've done enough of that. Can you read your own mind yet? If you're angry, do you read that? Can you see that? If you're attaching to something, fear, worry, if you've got greed for something, you really want something and you're not happy till you get it, learn to read your own mind. We've got a lot of experts as well, people who can read everyone else's mind. I know what they're thinking, I know what they're doing, I know them. We love to do that. We know best about everyone else, but we don't know our own mind, do we? That's why we've got to come back and practice mindfulness, watch our own mind, teach our own mind. So maybe for tonight, I don't want to bore you or get you more angry by talking all night. I'll just say this much, but I wish you all well in your practice, and I hope that you continue to practice until the job is done. Don't stop until you reach Nibbana, however long it takes. 1 month, 1 year, 1 life, 10 lives, 100 lives. It doesn't matter. You just keep going until the job is done. And I hope it does. I hope you all get enlightened. So maybe I'll leave the talk there.
เตรียมตัวกราบ3 ครั้ง เอากราบแล้วก็ขอบพระคุณท่านเจ้าคุณพระโสพลภาวนาวิเทศโดยหลวงพ่อกัลยาโนวัดป่าโพธิวันอำเภอเมืองเบเบิลประเทศออสเตรเลีย